Welcome to another edition of Down the Road. We've got so many things we want to get covered today. You know, a lot of things happen over a weekend, and so you get a chance to see some of the things in the news. We're going to talk about AAA, what that means in terms of going into Memorial Day weekend. What are gas prices? Where are they going to go? What's the cost to you? People are getting out. I mean, they're just getting out. They're so sick of COVID, and most people have been vaccinated, and so you know they're just ready to bust at the seams. We're going to get a chance to talk about what happened in the Gaza Strip today as well. There's billions of dollars that are going to be needed to rebuild the homes of the Palestinians, and so we'll get a chance to visit with that. But you know, I know him. He's sat in this chair before, and he'll sit in this chair again as a guest host, longtime majority leader in the North Dakota House, and one of the most powerful men in the state of North Dakota for a lot of years. And that's former Representative Al Carlson. Al, good to have you coming down the road with us.
I sure like those titles. They never called me important and powerful when I was there.
Well, you weren't in the minority.
Yeah.
When you're in the minority, you learn who you got to cut.
But I always came on your show and we talked about the issue of the day.
Yep, exactly. I remember going into your office and going into John Dorso's office. These were the two offices I could do this with. And I'd come in with a stack of bills before the session. And I'd lay them down. I'd say, all right, pick the ones. And I remember you'd go, okay, this one's a good bill. You should probably talk to so-and-so. You know, this one's a piece of crap. You could just throw that in the garbage. And I'd say, well, I ain't going to throw it in the garbage. I'm going to put it in. Well, we'll kill it. You know, we'll kill it.
Well,
and we did a lot of that. And then I remember some Democrats one time looking at me saying, why do you get so many bills passed? And I didn't want to tell them that I showed respect in the beginning. And that was why.
That's because you actually walked in. Most of them wouldn't come in.
Yeah.
They wouldn't come in. If they'd have come in with a good idea, we'd have talked about it.
Yeah.
You know, good ideas that you could always say that I'll kill your good idea and I'll make it mine. Mm-hmm. But that isn't the best way to govern the state if you're going to do that. You got to say, you know what, I'll let you be a sponsor on the bill with one of my guys. Yeah. And some of them would say yes, some would say no. Well, that's just the way life is.
But if you didn't care, that worked.
Yeah.
There's a lot of original thoughts I had that somebody else prime sponsored then that I didn't care. I was on the bill and I got it passed.
I remember you getting me in trouble with the pheasant farming raisers. That bill got pulled faster than it went in. The phone started ringing, and I don't know who we were helping, but we didn't help much.
It was fun, though.
Oh, yeah.
It was fun.
And I get phone calls, and I don't even know what they are. And I said, what did I sign with you?
I wanted to talk to you a little bit. Well, we got a number of things I want to talk to you about, but you know, there's a lot of issues about empty office buildings here in North Dakota and leases that have been made, and now we find ourselves with no need for buildings. Give me your take on that.
You know, and that is going to happen, especially with COVID when it sent people home. You know, I still think that in a lot of business situations, you need people in the office. You need people working together as a unit instead of on a Zoom call. I mean, yes, most people, they think of a Zoom call, they don't think a whole heck of a lot of it. So, but when you sign a lease with the state, obviously it's as good as gold. It's as good as gold. When I was there, the IT building, which is pretty much empty now, I understand, was kind of a contentious issue because there was 2 or 3 bidders to build them a building. They built the building. It went to a group that was owned out of Fargo, and they got the lease. I believe it was a 10-year lease. I think there's probably 6 years left on it. In those 10 years, the 4 years have been, obviously they only go for 2 years because that's when the state finances. There's a clause in there that says subject to financing by the state. But the other overriding clause was a 10-year lease, which means a better rate usually. Well, now it's empty. What do? Do you back out of it as a state? Do you say, no, we're not going to honor the commitment we made? It was in the budget. I think it was $2 or $3 million for the biennium, and that's a lot of money. But now it's
under $3 million.
But now it's empty. But if I was the landlord and owned the building, I would say, hey, you signed in good faith. I signed this lease. I built you the building, and now your business model has changed. I would try and negotiate with them some kind of a reasonable out so that building could be used something else. But the problem in Bismarck is there's all kinds of empty office space. So what is the out? The out from the investor standpoint is not very good.
So I want to talk about that, though, because some people, it's the chicken or the egg. Okay, the landlord, the individual that builds it. Number one, the first question is, if you're going to sign a 10-year lease to it, why didn't the state build it? Why didn't we just build our own building?
You know, that discussion went into place. I remember when they were going to originally build something up on the hill north of Bismarck and pay an exorbitant price for some land and then have another empty state building, because it would be, no matter who owned it, it'd be empty today. I mean, if they're going to work this IT people from home, it'd be empty no matter whether the state owned it or an individual owned it. The question is, do you want the state to grow into all this space? At least now you have an option instead of an empty building owned by the state sitting there.
Well, what's the option? I mean, if you're sitting there with a 10-year lease with no out clause, which most people, anytime you buy a lease, would get an out clause. I mean, imagine a scenario like this. Al and Joel's construction, okay, sign a 10-year lease on an office building. We go broke 5 years into it. I mean, there's got to be an out clause to the thing for the bank, for everybody else.
Bankruptcy is a whole different deal if that goes out. But when somebody...
No, but for the bank, the bank's left holding that money that borrowed you and I money.
I would guess there's probably a mortgage on these buildings that there is by the private investor. But when you sign the 10-year commitment from the state, if you owned it, wouldn't you believe that lease would be good for 10 years?
Well, if I signed a lease agreement with the state, I would only sign one for 2 years. And the reason I'd only sign one for 2 years is exactly what you just said. And I wouldn't build one if I didn't have the potential of leasing it out to someone other than the state, because states are fickle. I mean, you should live up to a 10-year agreement if you have one. Here's the bigger question to me. If anyone, I mean, we're sitting here in Fargo right now doing a television show. I've got a guy that can whisper in my ear, say, hey, you got a couple minutes and you got to take a break, and then you and Al can talk some more. I mean, automation is, much of it was there, or much of it was seen coming there. If anyone should not have leased a building for 10 years, it's IT. I mean, they should have known what was coming, or at least been able to realize many of them could have worked from home.
You know, I'm not an IT expert, but I would think that there's always, when you're working all these people from home, you're handling sensitive data in many cases for the state. Is it secure at everybody's house? You know, that would be one of my concerns. As a legislator, I'd ask them, is this secure? When you have Joe and Bill and Pete and Nancy, and they're all over the state, and they're all in their houses, they all have different carriers and providers, is this safe? When the information is flowing through these lines, is it safe? I mean, the question is, you could say, well, of course it's safe. We've got the firewalls built into it. Is the firewall in his house? I'd have to have those questions answered to me before I felt comfortable about having everybody at home remotely handling sensitive information.
It's happening right now.
Yeah, it is, and I'm concerned that some of it. I mean, you know what HIPAA is. Some of this is going to be dealing with human services things. I mean, you can't even get some, and you've probably tried to get basic information on people, and they say no, HIPAA protects their privacy.
Well, I've managed people that HIPAA protects their privacy. You know, the one thing about, okay, let's use COVID as an example, right? Mm-hmm. I cannot walk up to one of my employees and say, have you been vaccinated? That's, some would say legally you can. My whole thing is, it's my personal belief you can't. Yeah. What they have been doing is coming to you voluntarily. Hey, I've been vaccinated. Al, I got vaccinated. Did you get vaccinated yet? That type of thing, right? But I understand the HIPAA rules because I manage a lot of individuals. What I'm struggling with is the fact that IT didn't know they can have people work from home. Look at what's happening, and this happened probably before you pulled the pin. I mean, you've got a situation where higher ed has proven for a long time that they work from home. I mean, we've got a high-ranking official with North Dakota State University that probably hasn't put her feet on the ground in North Dakota for years. So why was this such a stretch, and why did we take out that long of a lease?
Well, I would have, had I built the building, I wouldn't have built it unless they signed a 10-year lease. I mean, there's no return on investment if it's a shorter time frame than that, especially in a market, in a town that's dominated by the government. I mean, there is way more government employees in that city than there are any other private business, whether it be the power companies or whatever. There's just way more state employees. So I wouldn't have signed it. I wouldn't have built it. And obviously, that was one of the reasons why it was attractive, and there were competing bids for to build the building, is because it was an attractive 10-year lease. Now, the key is to have a good attorney read through and see what the out is for the state on those leases. That would be my first question. whether it be the Attorney General or whether it be someone else, say, I want the fine lettering, because I have several state leases. They're not big ones. They're just small little offices that they have, that I've had, some of them for 15, 20 years. But they write the lease, and it always says in there that subject to state financing. So it's a 2-year lease in my case. Every time there's a 2-year renewal. And it's competitive. They go out and get bids, and if they don't like the numbers, they move on. And
Let me ask you this. Do you think that the owners of these buildings, and it doesn't take Dick Tracy to figure out that some of the owners of the buildings are good donors to your party. Can we agree on that?
Absolutely.
All right. And some of them are actual legislators. Can we agree on that?
I don't know that legislators are involved in this particular
Todd Porter?
case.
No, I'm not talking about this one. A number of other state properties.
Well, there's also, there's some things at the medical school and stuff where there's other people but they also invested and built buildings on a bid basis.
Yeah, but my point is you can also structure what type of building you can lease out and then say, boy, we're going to bid on this. Perfect example. There's an advertising agency in Bismarck where the spec on what happened was totally based on how many people you had working, right? So if you're the only ad agency that had 25 people working, for example, you just got yourself a bid no matter what. Agreed?
Well, sometimes it's the devil's in the details, and sometimes there's people smarter than you and I that do that.
Well,
I would have never...
we as legislators...
We're too honest. I would have never looked for that clause.
Well, it was there.
Yeah.
It was absolutely there in many different cases.
But the state needs to know... They need to have some options when it comes to the next, because it's been funded for the next biennium. They need to have some options to either renew and renegotiate, or to find a way that they can to get out of that lease for the long term.
But before we move on from the leases, is it fair to say that the state is not going to have as many workers working in an office setting that the state provides for as there was pre-COVID?
I agree with that.
Okay.
And my only concern again is the security factor. If you can prove to me that it's secure as a legislator, I'd say okay.
Well, with the choice IT made, I'm not sure they can, but that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, if we start on that one, I remember you can get into the iCloud.
Yeah.
And it seems to be one particular vendor has the cloud, and how safe is the cloud?
Yeah.
I don't even know what the cloud is besides it's clear today. I mean, I don't know what the cloud is.
All right, when we come back, we've got some other state issues we want to talk about. That's the one thing about it. It's always a good conversation. So stick around. More with Al Carlson right after this.
Howdy, folks. It's a Canline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Canline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness.
During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark.
Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close.
Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship them to you free. This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
In a little bit, as we keep heading down the road, we're going to get a chance to visit with AAA and talk to them about the cost of gasoline, the cost of travel, and of course the world opening up again in terms of if you want to go to Mount Rushmore, go to Mount Rushmore. If you want to go to Medora, go to Medora. But there's policies that happen that, from administration to administration that put yourself in a position where, okay, is it this one's fault? Al Carlson, friend of mine that I love debating because I'm right and he's wrong. One of the issues I know we want to talk about is the price of gas during the during the Biden administration so far. What are your thoughts on
What's causing it? Well, in your opinion, what's causing the price of gas to go up?
Well, the price of gas going up right now, you could argue, I don't know if it's a chicken or an egg, but I know this, farmers' commodity prices are going up, and 15% of all gasoline is based out of that. So if soybeans go up, it's going to cost you more to make biodiesel. If corn goes up, it's going to cost you more to make ethanol.
I think these pipeline issues have had a big effect. The Biden administration and their wanting to switch to all electric vehicles by 2025. Some of these dates are unrealistic, and I think when the Keystone, example of the Keystone going down, putting the Dakota Access Pipeline on hold, which now a judge has finally says you can go ahead and continue your expansion on the Dakota Access. Those kind of things I think have had a real negative effect. Now, you can say a storm did it. You could say on the East Coast, you can say that the cyber attack did it on that pipeline on the East Coast.
Well,
that might be true, but again, I think that the fossil fuel attack by the current administration has really had a negative effect. It's driven the price of fuel up. We're finally energy independent. How many years did we talk about that? You probably don't remember as well as I do when Jimmy Carter and we had the Arab oil embargo.
I was driving a Ford Pinto.
Yeah.
I remember it really well.
Yeah, I had a Falcon, and the darn thing was, you could freeze to death in that sucker. But anyway, his theory was just shut your thermostats down and drive less. Well, we finally got to the stage where we have energy independence, and we have all these negative things lining up that says don't pump as much oil. I know they don't want it on the rails, but if you take the pipelines away, where's it going to go?
Well,
Buffett's going to love it.
You're not going to find any argument with me on how pipe. You know that I'm an old pipeline guy. I built 2,800 miles of pipeline just getting water to people. So I was always for DAPL getting opened up, let it run. It's already built. That debate is all over. As far as the Keystone, if you look at Keystone, there are a lot of people that work out of this state don't like Keystone. Harold Hamm is not a friend of Keystone.
Well, Keystone is mostly Canadian oil, and they want to mix a little of ours in because it flows better.
Well, if you look at the United States senator that got the clause in there that allowed ours a certain percentage to get in there, she had red hair and she cheats at Pinochle. It was my sister Heidi, that did that. But the price, here's a factor that I think that people don't realize here with us. And I said chicken or an egg. I've never met a farmer yet that when they look at their input costs and they look at their price, doesn't look now because of renewable fuel standard that higher gas prices mean higher commodity prices. And I had one of the most conservative farmers I ever talked to say, Joel, the input I have of diesel in my rigs is pretty small input compared to my land, my seed, my fertilizer. He said, but I know this, if I'm paying more, my soybeans are worth more. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that's obviously the case. But in this case, it could mean that if the commodities market wasn't good, and it's been years when it's been down and we've had high oil prices, and then he wouldn't be singing that tune. Because right now, let's hope those commodity prices hold. I hope our farmers have a great year. They've had some rocky roads in the last few years, and they need some good years. Needs good rain, needs good weather. Yeah. But there's no question that the policies of anti-fossil fuels have had a negative effect on the price of gas.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. There's no question about that.
And they're not good policies for North Dakota.
Well, but they're there. And I will tell you this, I don't think it matters what administration, because when you look at whether or not we're going to have more electric cars, that debate's over. When the manufacturers themselves are saying, you know, Ford, if you would have convinced me that Ford pickups are going to be all electric, you and I aren't going to want that pickup.
Well, you and I are also not going to be able to afford it, because the minerals that are required for all the batteries and the technology aren't coming from the United States.
Well, we're not ready.
And they're owned by the Chinese.
We're not ready to plug them in yet.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the debates we should be having in the legislature is whether to take all these rest areas that DOT shut down and put charging stations at them. If we're going to get them, we're going to need charging stations for them.
Well, we're a little behind the curve on that, because even South Dakota has a lot more of the charging stations along the way. So if they are going to be on the road, we need to figure out how to make them pay for the miles they drive. You know, they did a little bit of change this year.
Gas tax.
And they need to make sure that they have a spot where they can pay to get their vehicles charged up.
Yep, agreed. I want to talk about the state opening up. I want to talk about the world opening up. On the break, you were telling me about church this weekend at Perham. Tell people about that, what it was like
Well,
this
it was
weekend.
the first Sunday where there was actually wine at communion. So that was gone the day COVID started. So, and there was always just one line of the church, and you had to keep your 6-foot distance. Some people wore masks at communion, some did not. Yesterday was a full house, both sides open, wine at communion, and the people were just happy. And you could tell that it's like lifting a burden off of people, saying you don't have all these restrictions now. And you know, I know what the goals are on the shots and all those things. And the more people that are vaccinated, the more comfort level some people have. You know, and some people haven't been able to see their grandkids. We had a discussion during the break about the elderly people not being able to see their grandkids and not being able to have visits at the nursing home. My daughter and her mother-in-law in Minneapolis did a nursing home, and one person at a time, and for a while it was through the window.
Yeah.
You know, that's hard on people, and I'm glad those days are going away.
I'll give you a perfect example of what we're talking about. I have a guy who raised me more like a big brother. He taught me to hunt. You know, my father wasn't hunting anymore by the time I became the age to hunt, and it was my sister Julie's husband, Rich, and he's got Alzheimer's, and she goes in to see him. You know, and I know there's good days and bad days, mostly bad days, and so she sits there, and then this show comes on, and she said, you should see him react. He'll sit there and he'll look up and then he'll chuckle. I don't know if he's chuckling because he thinks I'm an idiot doing a TV show, or if he just recognizes my face.
I think it was, I can't believe he said that.
I think it's more, I can't believe they gave him that job. But the fact is, I couldn't go see him if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't go see him if I wanted to. And now it's looking like that's going to open up. And so that's a good thing.
I'll tell you that, I agree, it's been the hardest. There's one last thing before I think we're done here after a bit, but I'm real concerned about our foreign relations in this country. And I'm not, you know, you and I live in the upper Midwest, and the chance of us getting invaded by anybody is pretty small. But this whole thing in Israel and Gaza, this is a mess. Mm-hmm. And I think it shows weakness on our part that we haven't stepped in there more to get this stopped. I mean, just saying, come on, guys, shake hands and be buddies, isn't going to do it. You know, this whole Iron Dome and thousands of rockets being fired in, people dying on both sides. Because one thing the Israelis are, when they reattack, people die. Mm-hmm. And we need just the Russians getting into our pipeline. I mean, there's some, and I think part of it, Joel, and you probably don't want to admit it, because I think they view this administration as being much weaker on foreign affairs.
I think it's this. I think that if there's anything, because what you're worried about is whether or not the Palestinians end up being more terroristic, right? Is that what you just said?
4,000 years ago, that land was
Okay.
a Jewish land, and all of a sudden we've been fighting about it ever since.
Right. Well, we could make them. I'm not trying to stick up for the Palestinians because I don't want to take that side. What I would say about this, though, is if you had the previous administration, the one that would be absolutely right and go ahead and bomb the heck out of them would be the Trump administration. I think this administration stepping in with the European community saying that's enough was a good thing.
Yeah.
I would argue they waited too long.
Well, there's no question it should have been day one before it got to that stage. But I want you to also remember that in the 4 years that Mr. Trump was president, there was no war activity.
Well,
He kept us out of wars.
who was building the tunnels then?
Yeah. Well, they've always been building tunnels. You know, it kind of reminds me of Hogan Heroes. There's always another tunnel.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to be gone the last week of June, so get ready for a phone call. You don't need to be out to Lake all the time.
You know, I sneak in here today just to see you.
That's right.
Actually, I got a granddaughter in town from Denver, and she wanted to come see her cousin, so here I am.
You can get that Chevy pickup in here. The Ford will have to pull it sometime. All right, when we come back, let's talk to the AAA. Let's talk about travel. Let's talk about the world opening back up with Gene LaDoucer right after this as we go down the road.
Hey everybody, I'm Doug Billings, your host of The Right Side with Doug Billings on Beck News. We bring you high-profile guests, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive guests. Now, you're not going to see these guests in most of the mainstream media outlets. Another thing that I do here is give guests a platform to speak freely. You're not going to see me censor anybody. Please join us, won't you? Weeknights right here on Beck TV and online at beck.news. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues.
Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the most condescending, rude email you've ever received?
Well, welcome to
National
the third term of a certain president. I really believe that.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
Hey Bucks fans, if you're planning an outing, birthday, or employee appreciation night, then bring your group out to the Buck Stop for a night of fast-paced, high-scoring football. Your group will receive discounted tickets, options for reserved seating, scoreboard messages, VIP services, swag, and a space to gather during the game. You can also participate in pre-game ceremonies, halftime entertainment, in-game contests, and more. Call 701-595-0771 or visit bismarckbucks.com/tickets. All GA is first come, first serve. We'll see you on the turf. Go Bucks!
Welcome back to Down the Road. Gene LaDoucer has been somebody that everybody's counted on for a long time for information. He's the Director of Public Affairs with AAA. I don't know if you have AAA. If you don't have AAA, you probably should have AAA. As somebody who had teenage daughters who drove, it seemed like AAA made a lot of sense. Gene, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Obviously, the first thing, Al Carlson was just busting my chops over gas prices and how gas prices are rising. What is it looking like nationwide, and do you have any indication of where it may stop?
You know, gasoline prices are rising, especially at the national level. We're up at about $3.04 on a national average, which is about 15 cents higher on the month and over $1 higher than we were paying this time last year. Actually, it's the highest price we've seen since 2014. However, if you look more locally, the North Dakota average is 20 cents cheaper. Still, it's up 7 cents on the month and over $1 more expensive than a year ago. However, if you look historically, we're not that far out of line from what we've typically seen. Memorial Day averages over the past 10 years, actually the average has been about $2.97 a gallon. So we're right in line with that, maybe even a little cheaper.
I'm curious about this because, you know, I drive 65 miles to work every day. And so I see what the pump rings up to, and I can tell you how low the tank gets before I fill it. And sometimes when I see that number here, I notice it. Sometimes when I see it here, I don't notice it quite as much. I mean, that's just the cold, hard truth. When you look at that in terms of, I mean, you just mentioned the history year to year. Every year things go up. With gas prices, they haven't. When you take a look at an average inflation factor, vehicles, houses, those type of things, it seems to me that gas has held its own in terms of price.
I think if you look historically, you'll see that gasoline prices are probably less expensive than they were, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And a large part of that is due to, the nation being able to produce its own oil. We used to rely heavily on OPEC countries. Now we have our own supplies, whether it's in Texas or North Dakota or anywhere in between. So that steady supply of oil has really helped keep a lid on the inflation of gasoline prices.
And Gene, this is different than AAA. I know this isn't in your wheelhouse, but I think it's fair to say. I was talking earlier about farmers, and I was talking about where we live. And sitting down having lunch one day with a very conservative farmer, we were talking about gas prices going up. And he said, Joel, with input costs I have, gas prices, fuel prices are not one of my big input costs. And if they do go up, that's an indicator to me that my commodity prices go up, that I'm going to get more for my soybeans and more for my corn. Do you do any keeping track on that, Gene?
No, we do not. We do look more at the consumer, the everyday consumer that's, filling their car to go on a vacation. And generally what we're seeing there is anything $3 or less, they kind of shrug off. They start paying a little attention to gasoline prices once they hit that $3 level. But once we hit $3.50, then we start seeing changes in behavior. I don't expect to see $3.50, anytime soon. But we're flirting with that $3 a gallon level, so that's a lot of people have that in their vocabulary right now is $3 gas. So this level is catching people's attention.
You take a look at the fact the country is opening up again. We're heading into Memorial Day, supply and demand. I'm with you. I like seeing us more independent as a nation when it comes to producing oil. But where were we last year at Memorial Day when the country was basically shut down and you knew there wasn't going to be as big a demand on our reserves?
Last year for Memorial Day, we saw a record low in the number of travelers, and gasoline prices were at $1.81 a gallon. At that level, we would obviously all like to be paying that again. But as the economy recovers, as people hit the road, as people are enjoying their vacations again, prices are going to rebound to levels that are more normal.
When you take a look at, as you pointed out, that the world is kicking in. Which holiday traditionally do we have that gas prices go up the highest on? In other words, are they hitting the road more 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day? I mean, when do you sit there and say, fill the tank up, honey, about a couple weeks ahead of time?
July, the Memorial or the July 4th holiday is the busiest holiday of the summer travel season. Memorial Day is actually when we generally see the highest gasoline prices. During an average cycle throughout the year, we'll see our annual high leading up to Memorial Day weekend. Then they'll stabilize and maybe even trend lower through the summer. Then after Labor Day, they'll start to fall off sharply.
So, Gene, because you are, basically covering the backside of a lot of these vehicles, my guess is, and it's a guess, that you might have a good understanding of what these vehicles are. Because the amount of risk that you have out there it's a lot different to tow my Ford pickup in than my wife's little Cadillac that she runs. So the question is this: what are people driving? What is out there now in comparison to 5-10 years ago?
Now, we're still looking at the average age of a vehicle being about 11 years old. So we're seeing older automobiles on average on the roadways, and pickup trucks and SUVs seem to dominate the newer vehicles that we're seeing on the roadway today.
Boy, if you go down the road, in our area, certainly. I mean, when I go to D.C. and I do some radio there, I go see some friends there, you don't see pickups unless it's a service truck for some company. But when you go down the road here, you're going to see pickups. I mean, that's what you're going to see, or you're going to see SUVs. To me, that's just the nature. And if you have those, Gene, I would assume mileage isn't so strong.
Yeah, you're right. When gasoline prices were up about that $4 point, 6-8 years ago, we saw a trend towards smaller vehicles. The smaller, the better, the more fuel efficient. Now that seems to be thrown out the window. Now people are looking at the more larger, more comfortable vehicles, and that trends towards the larger SUVs or the trucks.
So what about electric vehicles? Are you getting ready for that as AAA? Are you ready for what that's going to mean to your company?
We certainly are. We're tracking that trend very closely. In the areas where electric vehicles are more popular, we have a number of advances in our service quality and the way we provide service to those vehicles. So it's a trend that we're certainly watching, and we anticipate will be growing over the next several years.
Most people know what AAA is, and I should have started this interview this way. But what do you have available, and how do people access you, Gene, the way they should take advantage of AAA?
Well, we ask them to look at our website, AAA.com, or call our branch office here in Fargo at 701-282-6222. And, we're a large organization, 62 million members across North America now. In addition to our world-class emergency road service, we also have a full-service travel agency, which has really taken off now that the pandemic is starting to be controlled. And we're also a full-service insurance agency. So, we have a lot of services to offer to the public, and we're certainly happy to talk to anyone who gives us a call or checks out our website.
Well, I mean, you're betting on good things, and you always take care of bad things. There's no question about that. So an open winter like the one we just went through must have been a good winter for you.
Yeah, our service call volume was down considerably, not only because it was a mild winter here in our region, but also because there were fewer people traveling. But with that said, these vehicles that perhaps sat for a long period of time need to be properly maintained before they hit the road again now for Memorial Day or other summer trips.
How big of a factor for your company has the use of cell phones been?
Cell phones obviously have been taking over everything. Being able to pinpoint where a person is located, to be able to get that service provider to them as quickly as possible has been huge. And being able to contact us, whether through a tweet or through your phone directly, has been a significant advantage to our services.
So the service companies that you call and say, hey, get out there, those companies, it's my understanding they're having a hard time finding the workers they need. If that's the case, how do you know who to rely on?
Well, our contracts with our service providers, basically stipulate that they provide services to the AAA member before they can provide services to anyone else. So, when we call them, we have a high anticipation that they're going to respond to a call as soon as they can. And you're right, as long as within many other industries, they're struggling to find qualified workers, but our standards are so high that, they jump at the opportunity to serve AAA calls.
Okay, Gene, one more time. You've earned that. What's your website?
AAA.com, AAA.com.
Thank you. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Very good. Thanks, Joel.
One of the reasons we wanted to have that conversation is you're heading into Memorial Day. A lot of us are going to be hitting the trail, hitting the road, and that alone should put a smile on our face in this COVID world because most of it's in our rear view mirror. And I hope you've had your vaccination. One more pitch for that. When we come back, we're going to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congresswoman you never would have wanted to cheat off in high school or college because she's just not that bright.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money. So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467. Join us May 22nd as we take on the Northern Arizona Wranglers for Senior Scholarship Night. Every student deserves an opportunity. Help us help our students. For more information, visit bismarckbucks.com/scholarship or call 701-595-0771.
You know, how a freshman congresswoman, and I don't know, maybe this is her first term, maybe just her second term, but she sure hasn't been there for very long. Marjorie Taylor Greene out of Georgia comes from a rock-solid red district, and she comes from a perspective of there's nothing Donald Trump could do that she wouldn't support. In fact, right now as we speak, she's probably shining his shoes. Marjorie Taylor Greene is... you know, she's said and done some really dumb things. She really has. Not the least of which was the last thing she said, where she compared wearing a mask. For those that won't get vaccinated in the U.S. Congress, they've been asked to wear masks, told to wear masks. Well, she compares that to being a Jew in the Holocaust. That's right. She compares it to what Jewish people went through during the Holocaust. Are you kidding me? I mean, are you kidding me? That's what she said. That's what she believes. This is a woman who believes, and she lambasted comparing coronavirus in the U.S. Capitol to what Jewish people suffered during the Holocaust. I mean, understand this. Aside from being the ultra-right, darling, that Bastiat darling, that group that whatever you can say to shock is the way to go. That group of people that play on the far right fringe of the Republican Party. Aside from being that and being popular for that, understand this. When she was kicked out of committee, because of things that she said and things that she did, you know what happened? She made money. She made a lot of money. What she found is that people from all across the nation are going to see her as their darling. So now the $20 checks come, the $50 checks come. Now the way to go, I've been looking for a candidate like you. Don't ever lose. So she made money. So yeah, you say one outrageous thing about Joe Biden. You say one outrageous thing about how the election was stolen. And the next thing you know, you end up being in a position where you make money. And the next thing you know, after you start lambasting and saying things about your colleagues and not doing it in a dignified way, well, the more you get, you can call it picked on, you can call it disciplined, you can call it anything you want. The more you get treated the way you deserve to get treated, the more money you can make. So don't kid yourself. When she was beating up on the Jewish people, this wasn't all just naivete. This was not just her sitting there and thinking, well, man, I don't really understand this. And to be able to, you know what, I'm going to compare wearing a mask or being told I have to wear a mask to actually being in a concentration camp. I'm going to compare those two things. Don't assume that she's just an idiot and just did that. I'm not going to. I'm not. While I don't think she's very bright, I think when it comes to raising money, she's pretty good at it. And my suspicion is that she'll make money out of this as well. Now, understand, for those of you with a level of common sense, for those of you who look at this and say, we can do better than to have her be one of the 435 members of Congress that we have in this nation that are creating policy. She isn't going to create policy. The Republicans aren't going to vote for it. But Georgia can do better. The problem is they carve these districts out so that, they're safe. And that's the Republicans and the Democrats alike. The Democrats in Congress like to have these districts that are cut out, and this area doesn't matter because the polling shows this area is ours. The Republicans like to have these districts that are cut out, and this area doesn't matter because, that area over there votes Republican. It goes on every day, every time they redistrict. And of course, we all know what the census numbers are now, and we know who's going to be getting some more congressional districts. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they're never going to be fair races. There's only about 40 fair races in the whole countryside. Colin Peterson told me that, longtime Congress member and congressman from the 7th District in Minnesota. One of the most conservative members of Congress as a Democrat, period, was able to cross over that aisle. And you know what Colin Peterson said? The whole system's flawed. The whole system's flawed. When you make areas like they did his, which is a long, narrow district from the far north of Minnesota to the very southern tip of Minnesota, when you do that and you don't sit there and make it around an area that might agree on a lot of these issues, then you've created a district that, well, it fits into a certain realm of politics. Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene, number one, is safe. The only person that's ever going to beat her is a Republican if they run against her in the primary. And understand this, that Republican better have boatloads of money. They could run around the congressional district all day long and say, look, she's embarrassing us. She's taking us and what people think of us to an all new low. You know, they can do that. They could make that argument, but it's not going to work because every door they knock on, what's probably going to happen is she's going to have another $1 million to counter it, to go after it, to run all the TV ads, to say that she's the most patriotic member of Congress. Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't come out against the insurrectionists. She didn't do that. She didn't come out and say what happened at the Capitol was wrong and these people need to be held responsible for it. She didn't do that. Because those are the people that, number one, she's like, and number two, that are writing checks out to her. So understand why she didn't do it. You know, in the end, I'm sorry. But like most things in politics, it comes down to money. It does. It comes down to money. And in this particular case, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who wants to compare wearing a mask to being placed in a concentration camp, Marjorie Taylor Greene will get richer for it. I'll give you some final thoughts when we come back right here as we head down the road.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Spas, etc. Yeah.
You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you can pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Main and Bismarck.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Elmiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Well, they finally did it, didn't they? If you're a Minnesota Twins fan, they finally won an extra inning game. That's right. A 3-run, well, it wasn't a walk-off homer. They had to sit there and cross their fingers and wait one more time over whether relief would get the job done. But the Minnesota Twins won an extra inning game, and they won the series. That's another part against Cleveland Indians. And I might add this also, the New York Yankees swept the Chicago White Sox. So that was good news over the weekend. That was really good news. Now, keep this in mind. The Twins aren't doing well. For the first time in a long time, they're under 10 games. Shouldn't say under. They're only 9 games or 9.5 games out. Well, they were in worse shape. It wasn't that long ago in terms of being in first place. Now, where does it go from here? You know, who knows? What I do know is this. They're fun. I mean, Byron Buxton's been hurt. When Byron Buxton plays, they do better in terms of scoring runs. There's no question about that. The problem they have is every year it seems that Byron Buxton's hurt. He was headed for what seriously could have been an MVP year in the major leagues this year. I mean, seriously, there was no one playing better than Byron Buxton. Now, what causes it? The fact he plays all out, the fact that he doesn't realize there's a fence there and doesn't care, the fact that he could get that out by diving. I mean, he does not play cautiously. And maybe that's why we all love him so much, or at least love to watch him. I want to throw out another thing at you. Miguel Sano. Miguel Sano in one of the recent games hit 3 home runs. Yep, 3 dingers in that one game. Is this a good time to get rid of him? Is this a good time to have people look at him and say, well, you know, take a look at it. This guy's up for sale. Maybe we can make a trade here. Well, I think it's time to do that. I'm not a big Sano fan. I'm not. I just don't like guys that don't put the ball in play, and he strikes out way more than he should. Nelly Cruz, is he doing the job that everybody hoped he could do one more year? You know what? I would argue he is. I would argue that the job that Nelson Cruz does is gets everyone to stop when he's up to bat, which means he provides entertainment. The big problem the Twins have is they let their middle relief get away. Nobody, you know, when they look at the middle relief, when anyone does, that isn't glamorous. That isn't one of the things that everybody looks at and says, wow, remember him? But you got to have it. You got to have a good one. All right, I'll be back on Wednesday. Tyler Axness tomorrow right here on Down the Road. Good riding with you.